We're excited to have Ken Silva on the program today. He's one of the incredible editors over at headlineusa.com. And Ken is doing great work at continuing to hold those people, especially those involved in the Epstein scandal, feet to the fire. And he's got a bombshell update for us in regards to people with close ties to Epstein and where they landed, as well as the Virginia Roberts book that's coming out this week. I want to welcome Ken to the show. So, Ken, you got a lot to update us on. So I'm going to let you take it away from here. Bring us the very latest. I see that you have a bunch of updates right now up on headlineusa.com.
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks for having me. There was quite the whirlwind of information that was all kind of dumped on Friday and Saturday. Most significantly, in my mind, was that the House Oversight Committee released an interview transcript with Alexander Acosta, who headed the Southern District of New York while that office was investigating Epstein in the mid 2000s for crimes against children. That investigation resulted in Epstein receiving his infamous plea deal, in which he only served 13 months in jail. Most of that, he was out on work release, working for a weird front company called the Florida Science Foundation. Acosta also is infamously the guy who reportedly said that he gave Epstein such a light punishment because, quote, Epstein belonged to intelligence. Acosta has been denying those reports for years, ever since it was first reported by the Daily Beast. And this interview transcript doesn't reveal much new as far as that goes. You know, he was asked about it last month, and again, he denied it. However, the transcript does reveal astounding new information about somebody who worked for Acosta at the time, a guy named Bruce Reinhardt, who, if that name should sound familiar, because he was actually ended up being the judge who in 2022 signed off on the infamous FBI raid on Trump's Mar-a-Lago property. So the news here, though, is that Acosta, the House Oversight Committee presented Acosta with evidence that while Reinhardt was still working in his office, while the investigation into Epstein was still ongoing, he incorporated a private practice at an address in Palm Beach on October 23rd, 2007. And the very next week, Epstein incorporated his Florida Science Foundation at that exact same address. So essentially, they were sharing office space together. And then Reinhardt, of course, we've known this for years, that he quit the DOJ a couple months later and he joined Epstein's legal team. And then if you fast forward another 6 months in 2008, Epstein, the plea deal is finalized, and then he goes and works at that Florida Science Foundation on work release while he's serving his sentence, essentially, again, sharing office space with this former DOJ guy. And the last thing I'll say about the Florida Science Foundation is it was revealed to be just a shell company. It's not like Epstein was sitting doing experiments with beakers and test tubes. In fact, we have reports that he was actually soliciting more women while he was out on work release, again, in the same office as the former DOJ prosecutor who would go on to be the Mar-a-Lago judge. So, you know, the corruption here is just absolutely astounding. It's even deeper than we previously knew. Unfortunately, you know, you could think that this might lead to impeachment efforts against Judge Reinhardt, which would be totally reasonable and justified, but I don't expect that to happen because, of course, we know, unfortunately, the Trump administration doesn't want to put this Epstein stuff back in the spotlight. They're hoping that this goes away.
Yeah, no, and it's becoming very clear how deep this all goes, and we're learning more and more about it and how well connected Epstein was to very high people and the roles that they all played. And there's interesting allegations currently being made in regards to Virginia Giuffre's new book that's coming out, the memoir Nobody's Girl. And it details and it alleges a well-known prime minister participating in rape against her, brutal rape and other assaults as well. And, you know, we've heard before in the past that there was a former Israeli prime minister who she was accusing of rape in court. Now, he's always denied these claims. But what's the latest that we're learning in regards to this book that she was planning on releasing on Tuesday?
Yeah, so we're gonna have to see exactly what's in the book, but it hits shelves tomorrow, and it's some really juicy stuff by all accounts, including yes, this former Israeli PM who is also a good friend with Epstein. They sold spyware in America together to local police stations, and a lot of these police departments still use this Israeli spyware that was peddled by Epstein and the former Israeli PM. Yeah, I apologize, his name's slipping my mind right now, but. I guess one thing I'll say about Virginia Gouffre is a lot of people do note inconsistencies in her story. A lot of the more salacious allegations come from her, and some of them have been debunked. Ehud Barak, yes, that's who the Israeli PM was. Um, but Virginia Roberts was a troubled woman throughout her life, and I think just because she retracted some of her allegations against guys like Alan Dershowitz, that doesn't mean we should discount the entire book. I think it is worth reading, and we're just going to have to parse out what's true and what she might have confabulated.
Yeah, and given the fact that right before her passing, there was this car accident where she says she had a limited amount of days to survive. I mean, it doesn't really add to her credibility, but I mean, this could be bombshell too at the same time. It's just really frustrating trying to sift through all of the allegations being made and trying to figure out for ourselves what's true, what's not true. Unfortunately, I mean, I believe a lot of the victims in these cases, but we need some evidence to back up these claims. And so we look forward to reading what those allegations are and continuing to report that, of course, to our audience. And then we kind of have to sift through and figure out what's true, what's not. So we'll continue to do that. I also wanted Ken to mention this report. Now, and we're going to play this clip here because you flagged this for me. Now, I was under the impression after Charlie Kirk's assassination that there was a explosive device that was planted under a local news Fox vehicle, a van, and that there were individuals that were arrested for it and charged with it. But that doesn't seem to be the case. Folks, take a listen to clip 8 because it's kind of taken a very, very strange turn. Take a listen.
They were arrested on suspicion of planting an explosive device under a Fox 13 News vehicle, but they have never been charged with any crime related to that. And today a judge released them from jail pending their trial. Abid Nasir in the yellow jumpsuit and his son Adil Nasir are charged with possessing a hoax weapon of mass destruction. The father is also charged with firearms possession offenses. The counts stem from what a defense attorney today said was inert dynamite found in their Magna home, as well as a small amount of marijuana found by agents investigating the attempted arson. Defense attorneys asked their clients that they be released from the Salt Lake County Jail, where they've been held for about a month until their trial.
There may have been a federal warrant that initiated this action. I don't have access to that warrant yet to address how it is that somehow my client is connected to that in any way. But it appears, quite frankly, that he's not, given that after the execution of that warrant, he was not charged federally.
I don't believe that the crime that is spoken about with regard to the Fox 13 stuff, I don't think that really has anything to do with this case. And the fact that two were mixed together is a mystery, in my opinion.
Okay, Ken, this doesn't seem to make any sense. I mean, how are they somehow mixing these two together? It doesn't sound like there's a connection.
Yeah, and I think that's the larger story here. This does have a loose connection to the Charlie Kirk case because it was the day after Tyler Robinson was arrested. The FBI was actually searching his home as a family's home in his Magna neighborhood, and the whole neighborhood had to be uh, evacuated. And it was later revealed that that's because they discovered a bomb underneath the van in Salt Lake City. And so they called the people over in Magna and said, hey, there could be bombs under the media vans over there. You got to clear out the whole neighborhood. So it did affect the media's coverage of the story. But so far, investigators say there's no solid link between the assassination and this attempted bombing. But again, I think the larger story here is that it mirrors the Kirk case in that, these two suspects were originally arrested and paraded around like they were definitely the guys who planted the bomb, much like in the Kirk case, how they had originally arrested George Zinn and then said, oh, he wasn't the guy. Later that night, Cash Patel is at a five-star restaurant and he tweets out that, oh, we've got another suspect, and he had to retract that too. So it really goes, what's going on in Utah? It's really sloppy investigations. It really seems like.
Well, Ken, I have a big problem with this because number one, I mean, I don't like showing people's mugshots or saying their names. And I usually actually don't, even when there's an allegation, I don't say the individual's names. I usually try to avoid it for that reason alone, because there's a lot of times where, and I'll never forget, there was a kid I actually went to high school with, and he was accused of having possession of, or had taken a photo of a child in a bathroom. And so he was charged with possession of child pornography. And the police put his mugshot out there and they said, yeah, he did this. This is what he did. But they actually didn't even have access to his phone, and they never even saw the image itself. They just had a statement from a child that said that they saw a phone go over the stall, and that's what they used solely. It turns out that the individual never, and we've learned over a year later that he actually never had the image on his phone. So I usually hold back before I make crazy allegations like this. And I try to do my best to ask people, what are the evidence that you have that links you between these two people? Sadly, the FBI doesn't really lay out the case, unfortunately. So it really ticks me off when I hear names being thrown out there like this and allegations being made against people and their lives potentially destroyed. Again, we don't know what they were exactly doing, but this seems to be a major issue. I also want to highlight the fact that another issue that I have with the FBI director, he put out in his tweets that the whistleblowers were confirmed to be brought back and they had worked out a deal and everything was going well. He put that out way too early because I went to go call to verify that with their attorneys, and their attorneys were still negotiating a deal. So the FBI director himself put out a tweet before it was even officially confirmed, and it was days later when everything was officially agreed to. So there seems to be this thing over at the FBI, and I'll let you comment if you'd like, where facts are put out there, and those who question it, like myself, usually don't really end up on good terms with the FBI anymore. But there's a history of this new FBI putting things out there and saying things that aren't necessarily true. Are you witnessing that at all?
Yeah, and it's my understanding that the whistleblowers like Steve Friend and Garrett O'Boyle still aren't actually back to work. So that's, I guess, another story to dig into.
Mm.
But yeah, I'm totally in agreement with you. It was very irresponsible to connect these two men to the attempted bombing. And I think a lot of people noted that they're Pakistani nationals. So, of course, it went viral over Twitter that this was sort of radical Islamic terrorism case. Now we have the actual man who was charged. His name's Christopher Solomon Proctor. I will name him because he is charged, and he's just some 45-year-old Utah man. He was seen in all black, and he was driving a Porsche, so he was rich. It's a very bizarre case, and we need to dig into him further. But this all, underscores what you were just saying about how we can't jump to conclusions here.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a little frustrating that this is what you have to deal with, because I would hate to slander someone's name without there being enough evidence there to back up these claims. I want to ask you as well about the FBI now leading the investigation into that hunting stand that was located outside of Palm Beach International Airport. Apparently, according to reports, at a clear sight of the president's Air Force One arrival and exits. So it would have had a decent shot if the president had gotten off and on the plane before they spotted this. Secret Service obviously being the one to discover it first. FBI Deputy Director Dan Bongino coming out and saying that, yes, they've taken down the stand. It's being given over to an FBI lab now. What else are you learning about this? Because again, this seems like a very strange thing, but it also might also have some kind of like common themes related to previous assassination attempts as well.
Yeah, and thanks for the opportunity to talk about this, because if you read the state search warrant for Ryan Ruth, the man who was convicted of attempting to assassinate Trump at his Palm Beach golf course in September 2024, in fact, he scoped out that exact same airport, and the state police note that he's seen about 5 days before he eventually made his attempt on the golf course. He drives in the parking lot to the public area at the airport, and he was scoping out where Trump parks his plane. So that's sort of different. It's not where Trump gets on and off, but clearly Ryan Ruth was attempting or contemplating his assassination attempt at that exact same airport, where now we're finding this hunting stand that has another line of sight to where Trump was deplaning and boarding. So it just raises troubling questions about why security wasn't tightened after the Ruth case when they knew that, yes, assassins are looking at this airport as what seems to be a soft target for getting at the president.
Yeah, and that's deeply concerning. And I think most Americans right now are worried about this. I mean, they're continuously trying to take shots at President Trump, and this needs to be looked into. Do you have confidence that the FBI is going to be able to handle this appropriately?
Well, judging on their track record, no, I don't have much confidence. I guess it's it's good that they're taking the hunting stand to Quantico to analyze it for DNA. I think they're very serious about getting to the bottom of this, to give them the benefit of the doubt. When all this stuff happened under Ryan Ruth, that was obviously a previous administration, a previous regime, and we saw some pretty gross mishandling of evidence in the Ryan Ruth case. I mean, they took apart his rifle, and then when the defense tested it again, it wasn't even working, so it threatened to collapse the whole case. They tainted some of the witnesses in that case. So, given how close Dan Bongino and Cash Patel are to Trump, I got to imagine that they're putting their top guys on this, and hopefully, unlike what happened in the wake of the Charlie Kirk case, they'll get all their ducks in a row and make sure their evidence is solid before they drag somebody's name through the mud in connection with this.
Yeah, we hope that's the case, Ken. Ken, thank you for joining us and giving us this update. I appreciate all the credible work you do over at headlineusa.com. Give him a follow on X. If you want to know everything regarding all these good cases that are important to follow, you got to give him a follow on X. He's the only one covering these things and the only one digging into all the court documents. So make sure you do just that. Ken, thank you as always.
Thanks again.
While other networks lie to you about what's happening now, InfoWars tells you the truth about what's happening next.
So why don't you just keep your mouth shut?
Oh,
because you
is
showed up.
Is that the way
you
to talk?
showed up. You voted.
You can extend it
A
right now.
permanent extension of massive tax breaks. Is that right?
90% of Americans take the standard deduction,
Is that right?
If you had your way, the standard deduction would have been cut in half. That would have been a massive tax increase on Americans.
I respectfully ask for your attention on this because it's critical to my future, to InfoWars' future, and to your future. When you go to thealexshowstore.com with the widest selection of Patriot apparel, the very best supplements, ultramethylene blue, you name it, you're funding InfoWars and keeping us on the air, but we're very close to being shut down. When you go to realalexjones.com, that is a clone, all the same deals, all the same selection of all the incredible products that are so popular, it all goes to the Alex Jones network system that's been built, and to the crew, and to the legal defense and our ongoing operations, because they're attacking that next, which is fine because I don't own it, so they can't shut it down. I really need you to go to realalexjones.com. And something I said is not exactly right. It's not just a clone of the alexjonesstore.com. You get an additional 10% off what you would pay at the alexjonesstore.com. So a little inside baseball for folks who already love the products, want to support us. It is critical to go to realalexjones.com and you get an additional 10% off right now. And a lot of products that are sold out at the alexjonesstore.com, they hold back some over at Real Alex Jones. So there are also some of the collectible knives and coins and other things, and things like Dr. Jones Naturals, the amazing, highest quality 30 parts per million colloidal silver bullet. There's the next level foundational energy that's proprietary and absolutely amazing, that cleans out your mitochondria and just is so good for your whole body and goes like a horse in carriage, with ultramethylene blue. So actually, there's 10% off more on top of all the sales, and there's a bunch of products there that aren't available at the alexjonesstore.com. So I think I just sold you on the fact that it's the place to go. realalexjones.com. Thanks for your support. I can't do this without you. We got people like Hakeem Jeffries saying, shut up, America, shut up, reporters. And right at the front line of what they're attacking is myself and trying to get me off the air. So when you keep us on the air, whether it's InfoWars or the Alex Jones Network, when you support at realalexjones.com, you are literally sending such a strong message to the globalists that you're not surrendering or not backing down, and you're getting great products that enrich your life, make you healthy, wealthier, and wise. It's an adventure to wear the t-shirts, ball caps, and stuff there. It's the entire selection at even a lower price with even items you can't get at theauctionstore.com. So take action now at realauctionshows.com. And I thank you so much for keeping us on the air, because I couldn't have done any of this without you.